welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Traditional rulers in Nigeria have for long been recognized as the custodians of the laws and mores of their subjects, as well as an essential bridge between government at all levels and citizens at the grassroots. In all they do or say at all times, traditional rulers are almost always expected to exude justice and be a shining light to the aspirations of their people. To what extent have they lived up to this divine calling? In a country with multifarious challenges to its socio-political and ecological realities, coupled with an overbearing political class, there seems to be a growing lack of capacity for these royal fathers to effectively play the desired roles. This morning, we will engage Polly Alakija, Director General of Shehu Musa Yaradua Foundation, an initiative which was set up to propagate and advance the vision and legacy of the late Army General and politician. The foundation has this week organized a public forum on climate justice, which had in attendance the Olu of Warri, Ogiame Atuashe III, a traditional ruler whose domain deep in the Niger Delta continues to suffer from untold degradation of the environment following decades of widespread oil pollution. In a separate forum, the Emir of Kano, Aminu Bayero, was on hand to address the need to engage more women in governance and civic matters at the grassroots level. Welcome to the program, Ms. Polly Alakija. Good to see you again, Polly.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Good morning. Good to have you join us on the program. Well, I mean, good to see that you are doing great things as the Director General of the Shehu Musa Yaradua Foundation. And I saw that in the course of the week, you had a public forum in which a lot of issues were discussed. You know, talk us through the significance of that forum and what you're doing with the foundation, basically in bringing traditional institutions, you know, along in ensuring community engagement. Tell us about it.
Thank you very much, Steve. And yes, indeed, on Tuesday this week, the Foundation hosted a public policy forum titled Towards a Just Transition in Nigeria, the Opportunities and Risks. And this forum illustrates very clearly one of the key activities of the Shehu Musa Yaradua Foundation, which is creating platforms that encourage and enable free and open dialogue for both civic society and public sector institutions to come together and have frank discussions around key issues that impact on issues around democracy and social justice. So this forum was a brilliant example of that. And our guest of honor was the Olu of Warri, Ogiame Atuashe III. And he spoke most eloquently about his role in the community as a gatekeeper to the community and the need for our communities at grassroots level to have that voice, and a voice that is a constant. It was a very nice segue you made into introducing me, talking about monarchies and what they represent and how the people relate to monarchies. Monarchies are a constant. The royal household of Warri goes back centuries. It is unshakable. And the current Olu of Warri recognizes his huge responsibility to protect his people and to be a spokesperson for those people. And also he is a gatekeeper in that he has access. He's in constant contact with the communities. There's a huge amount of work continuously engaging with communities at grassroots to see what the issues are, to really understand very deeply the pains of those communities, the issues that they're facing, especially in this context. In the Iwere Kingdom, the issues that the people there are suffering, continue to suffer from the appalling abuse that's happened with exploiting their communities because of oil exploitation. And so he spoke most eloquently about the need to ensure that in the green transition and the transition away from oil, that the rights of people in communities are front and foremost. And he sees his role very clearly as being the spokesperson for his community. And you know that he will be, because the communities trust him.
All right, Polly. Of course, climate change is at the core of one of your discourses here. Could we just get from a definitional point, what is climate justice? And how does this differ from environmental justice, for instance? And of course, we brought in the conversation a little bit more to what the specific roles of traditional rulers are around this particular discourse.
Gosh, climate justice, environmental justice. Can we just stick to climate justice? Or rather, I think actually what has happened in the Niger Delta shows it clearly. Injustices have happened. The people there are suffering. There's clearly been huge injustice. The oil sector, of course, has been the biggest income earner for this country for many decades. What have the people of that kingdom, of that region, what have the benefits been to them? And they remain to be in a position of facing the incredible impacts of this rampant exploitation that has not put community concerns front and foremost. So in terms of climate justice, what are we talking about? We're talking about, as we're looking at the green transition, as we look at Nigeria's energy transition plan, is it serving the needs of the people at grassroots? Is it ensuring that the pictures that we're looking at now, that this does not happen again? It must never happen again. We must support these communities that have suffered so badly thus far, and ensure this is never repeated again. In the energy transition plan, there's a huge opportunity for investment here. There's a lot of money that's going to be available to ensure that we meet net zero carbon emissions by 2060. We have to ensure that our communities don't suffer again as they have done, and also they must be recompensed for the suffering they've had thus far. In the Niger Delta region, look at those photographs. At this public policy forum, we had community activists talking about farmers digging their fields, trying to dig fish ponds. They're a fishing community, and as they dig, oil seeps up through the land. Their land has been destroyed. That is a huge injustice. The Oluwari spoke very eloquently again about the need for a community-based, a place-based approach to rolling out the transition plan. And I think we're going to hear from him throughout this energy transition plan, I hope quite regularly, being a spokesperson and protecting and looking out for the rights of his people.
All right, Polly, were you also involved with the other forum where the Emir of Kano also addressed issues of women in governance and how that can, permeate, to the grassroots? Basically, this is also a highly placed traditional ruler, giving messages of hope to disenfranchised people, to, women, to say that, you also need to be part of governance. How much of your involvement went into this other forum?
Nice one. Thank you very much, Steve. Well, I'm going to swap hats a little bit here. This event in Kano this past week was an event that was as a result of work done by an NGO that I founded a few years ago. So I remain the chairman of the board of trustees of the Five Carriers Arts Education Initiative, and they've been working in communities in Kano State with the blessing of the Emir of Kano. And on Wednesday, the Emir of Kano honoured the women that Five Carriers has been working with in Kano State, and also the district ward heads who have enabled the programme there. What was interesting about this event was that the Emir went out of his way to acknowledge these women, to acknowledge and thank the district ward heads for their support of women in the community. The district ward heads understanding that the women in the community are like their golden key to impact at grassroots level. So it was indeed an honour to have His Highness there recognising these women. Some of the women who were part of the programme got up to speak about the programme. One of them actually broke down in tears because she was talking about the fact that she felt recognised, her role in the community was recognised, and she knew that she was able to have impact directly in her community. Now, what was interesting as well in conversations with His Royal Highness was we now kind of discussed my work at the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation, and I had program officer who heads up the gender justice program for the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation with me, and they had a conversation around perhaps now we need to start working with these women to address issues around gender justice in Kano State, and he was very open to that conversation. So it's fantastic to see a traditional ruler with his influence and impact in the ability to have impact in the community really taking a leading role and blessing initiatives like this.
All right, Polly, that sounds extremely refreshing. How often do you reckon you're going to have more of these forums?
The Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation hosts these forums very regularly. Earlier on in the month, we held a forum talking about under the Gender Justice Programme, and that forum was looking at safeguarding young women in university campuses, which is another of the programmes that the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation runs. We will be hosting another forum, I believe later on this month, looking at the national narrative, and in October there'll be a forum looking at issues around people with disabilities and how to ensure that we have more inclusive public sector institutions and private sector institutions, and looking at a more inclusive society. So these forums happen quite regularly. They're public, they're open to the public, and the public are most welcome to attend these forums at any time. We need the voice of the public heard, and that's precisely what these forums are for, to bring public sector, civic society together and the public together to have a frank and open discourse.
All right, the late Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua, as you may be aware, was a political mentor to two of the leading candidates in next year's general election. It was a mentor to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the presidential candidates for the PDP and the APC. So I'm wondering, given the fact that one of the key rules of the foundation is national unity and to deepen democracy, how much do you think that the foundation will be involved towards the 2023 general elections in speaking to that core, foundational reason for the foundation in terms of national unity, given the fact that Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua himself had something to do with both Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar? Will you be speaking along that line at all in the build-up to the elections in February and March next year?
I think you know the answer to that, and that is indeed yes. I'm sure you'll be hearing quite often from the foundation in the build-up to the elections. In a very practical way, we are running a programme supporting INEC and working very closely with INEC to help them mitigate some of the challenges they are up against in the build-up to the elections, and just doing our part in ensuring that hopefully the elections will be free and fair. So we do work directly in supporting the electoral process, and yes, we will be continuing to run our forums, and without a doubt we will be having creating platforms for open dialogue in the build-up to the elections. We're very much a foundation that is there to represent the vision of the late Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua, which is a free and fair Nigeria for all. And so that involves being a platform for all parties, all voices. So yes, Steve, you will see great involvement in the build-up to the elections and beyond.
All right, Polly, I'm going to have to circle back and take you back to the conversation around climate justice, because it's one that we don't get to have every day. As you highlighted earlier, climate justice posits a shift from the discourse around greenhouse gases and melting ice caps into more of a civil rights movement, really. But let's talk about the awareness level, even for those really affected by this. How high would you say this is, and how much sensitization is out there for them?
Thank you. So awareness at grassroots level, not terribly much awareness at grassroots level. We need to do a lot more work in that area, and we will be. I think in 2023 we've got some programs scheduled in that we will be doing just that, a lot of grassroots engagement, looking at what we need to do to make grassroots aware of these issues and their rights and their responsibilities, ensuring that we do have a more just energy transition and that their voices and concerns are not ignored. In my small experience in the space, in my interactions with communities in the space, I'm always staggered about the lack of awareness around issues pertaining to climate change and climate justice. In my previous role as CEO of Five Carriers Arts Education Initiative, they do have a project called My Story of Energy, which Five Carriers takes into communities and schools and really asks these questions. What is energy? What is your energy? Where does energy come from? Where does it go to? What are your energy uses and what are your rights and responsibilities along that pathway? And it's staggering when Five Carriers works with educators and key leaders in communities, how little knowledge there is. When you're talking about concepts like carbon footprint, talking about just fossil fuels and what does that actually mean? There's incredibly little awareness about that. The foundation last week ran a forum in Lagos with one of its partners, trying to sensitize and create awareness in media around the language around climate change and climate justice, and what these issues actually mean and what does a just green transition actually mean. So the foundation's quite directly involved, ensuring that there is greater sensitization at all levels, grassroots, our community gatekeepers, media. We're here, as I said, to create this platform to bring voices together and empower those voices and also protect those voices. The foundation does a lot of work protecting the civic space. Earlier we were talking about student protests. That's, how do people protest and how do we ensure that it's a process that gets results that are needed in a safe fashion. These are all concerns that are very close to the heart of the Seamus Yaradua Foundation.
All right, Polly, I mean, you're British, by birth, and I was wondering if you've got thoughts around the, transition of the Queen of England and the coming of King Charles III. How do all these come to you as a citizen? And I'm asking with the background that now that you are interested in using traditional rulers in Nigeria for more social engagement. Yes, we are not constitutional monarchy like the UK, but then this is are there things that we can learn in terms of engagement from the constitutional monarchy in the United Kingdom? Because here, a governor, even a local government chairman, can sign the removal of a traditional ruler, in a minute and is out of office. But you are interested in using them for more rural and political engagements. What are your thoughts, given what is happening at this time in the UK?
Yes, gosh, it's a real illustration of the love of people for a ruler and a leader. Sorry, I think as human beings, I think we're wired to look for leadership. We're wired to look for a leader that we love, who represents our values. And what's going on in the UK, what we're watching now, the mourning of the passing of Queen Elizabeth, is a manifestation of that. Britain is heartbroken at the moment. They've lost the leader that they loved, the monarch that they loved, and I'm sure they will learn to love. They will love. They already do love King Charles III. So there's tremendous power in that bond. Why did we love the Queen so much? Why do we love King Charles so much? We need that leader. We need somebody to look up to. We need somebody to inspire us, to reassure us, to make us feel a little bit safer, to know that that person has got our back. And I know that, yes, our ruling houses here don't quite have that constitutional strength behind them, but they do have the love of their people and the respect of their people, and nothing can remove that. And especially when a ruler takes a very active lead role for the benefit of their communities and looking out for the benefit of their communities, just as the Olu of Warri is, as the Emir of Kano is. They will have that love and trust of their communities. Nobody can remove that love and trust. It is there. So if we need to work at grassroots level, they are the gatekeepers. They're the people we must be also working closely with, not just the public institutions, but also our traditional institutions.
All right, Polly, could you give us a sense of what the general reception across board with the traditional rulers have been towards your respective causes? We already know that the Olu of Warri has shown significant interest, but what is the feel that you get across board?
Well, the forum we had with the Olu of Warri was just on Tuesday, and the event with His Highness the Emir was on Wednesday, so it's quite early to see the long-term feedback and long-term impact of that, but we have been flooded with goodwill messages, with thanks to both the Olu of Warri and the Emir. So far, very positive reaction. This is something, engaging traditional rulers is something that the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation has always done. They've always been part of the narrative and part of any discourse that they hold.
All right, Polly, before we let you go, just a quick one from me. I was thrilled that you are still involved with the Five Cowries, organization, because I thought maybe we've totally lost you. So my question is, Polly the artist and the creative spirit, how much of her have we lost totally to this new assignment that you're engaged with the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation?
Nice one. Thank you very much, Steve. I think you know me well enough. I think you know the answer to that. In terms of Five Carriers, what's been wonderful for me is watching my team in Five Carriers just pick up the reins. And partly why I was able to move forward to the next canvas in my life was because my team at Five Carriers have done such a good job of leading the programs. And so actually in the last 6 months to a year with Five Carriers, I've been well nigh redundant as CEO because my team have done so very well. So I remain chairman of the board of trustees and will support Five Carriers' work. Now my new canvas, my new challenge being this next canvas, which is Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation. I think you know me, Steve, well enough to know that, yes, I'm passionate about arts and culture, but it's what can we use that for social good. If I wanted to just paint for the sake of painting, which I do love doing as well, I would stay, wouldn't I just stay in Europe? Why am I here? What can I do with the skills I have and the amazing network I have to make social change happen? So for me, it's arts and culture for social change. Now, yes, I have a huge commitment and responsibility to steer the course of the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation over the next 5, 10, 15 years. The creative Polly remains there. Now, what I want to see happening at the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation is a lot more engagement with young people. However we make that happen, we shall see what comes of that. And Steve, I think you've worked with young people a lot as well, and you know the language of young people. So let's see what language the young people want to speak and see how that manifests itself. But the creative Polly remains here. I can't tell you how many people, now that I've moved to Abuja, said, Polly, are we going to see some of your work on the walls of Abuja? And some of the civil society organizations that Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation works with have asked me outright, please, Polly, can we get some public art going that speaks to our causes? So, Steve, you know me well enough. Trust me, I really hope that the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation will also support our creative industries in that way.
That's good to know, Polly Alakija, Director General of the Sheikh Musa Yar'Adua Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
All right. It's time now for a short break, and when we return, we shall be meeting up with our next guests, Professor Pat Utomi and Emmanuel Mock, on all matters INEC and the call for wholesome political conversation as Nigeria makes its way to another general election. Stay with us.